Good morning, everyone. I'm Santeri Saarinen. I'm the technology expert and research and development lead at Helsinki Xr Center. And I'll be talking about extended reality. That's probably a new topic for you, or hopefully it's a new topic for you. Some of you might know something, but I hope you learned something during this speak. Before going to the actual topic, let me tell you a little bit about Helsinki Xr Center, what we do. We are one of the leading XR hubs in Europe. We connect startup companies, larger corporations, investors, students, artists, basically anyone who's interested in the technology, wants to create something new, has some new ideas, and wants to create something. We started operations in 2019, then the COVID hit. Everything stopped for a while, but now we're getting back up to speed. So it's looking promising. On the right side, you can see some of our partners. We work under Metropolia University of Applied Sciences and in close collaboration with City of Helsinki, Business Finland, the European Union, of course. We are founding members of XR4Europe Association and also part of the Future Media Hubs Association. What we do, we have a couple of main activities. The first one is that we run an early stage startup developer hub. So any new team that has a good idea, they can come to us. We offer them free office space, free computers, headsets, mentoring, business support, basically anything that they need to move their ideas forward. Secondly, we do a lot of research and development, from small student works and thesis projects to huge European Horizon 2020 consortiums and anything in between. Then we also provide services for different organizations, the public sector, larger corporations. We run extended reality workshops, visits to our offices, and we operate a physical XR showroom where we try to have basically every kind of available technology, so people can come there, compare different technologies, test out different headsets, and see what they can be used for. And part of that is that we try to support the Finnish XR community, so we collect a large library of demos from Finnish companies, different technology that they're creating, and then showing that to our visitors. We have about, I'd say, 3 to 4 visits a week, about 10 to 50 people. So that amounts to a large number of people during 1 year. So that's free promotion for all the companies that have their demos with us. They can get possible new clients from the visitors or new contacts for co-creating something. We are also part of the European Digital Innovation Hub Network, which is now starting next autumn. We are part of the Finnish AI region consortium, which is located here in the Helsinki area. And then, since the COVID hit, we couldn't do anything physically in our showroom, so we went virtual. And since that's kind of what we do anyway, we created the VR Pavilion Finland, which is a virtual space for us to host events there and for Finnish companies to showcase what they are doing in this field. So it's a 24/7 open for anyone to visit, and they can hopefully get some kind of view what's happening in Finland in this field. And along that note, we organize a lot of events, virtual, hybrid events, or physical events when it's possible, to network companies with each other, with possible clients, getting students in for recruitment, and so on. But on to the actual topic. Why should you care? Depending on who you ask, the numbers are going up. The question is only how fast and how high. Augmented reality, which is part of XR, that's already really big, and everyone has a smartphone in their pocket, so the possible user base is huge. Virtual reality is growing all the time. So it's not something that's 5 years in the future, it's something that's happening now, and you should start working on that if you want to be part of these new technologies. I will be going into real basics, so that might be familiar for some of you if you know these technologies, but for others it's good to understand what the terminology behind these technologies is. So let's start with XR, or extended reality. That's kind of an umbrella term covering everything else. So if you hear XR, that could be any number of possible technologies. And it's not a new concept. There's this idea of a virtual continuum from somewhere in the mid-90s, where the amount of virtuality grows as you move from left to the right. And there's no like strict limitations on the technologies, but they kind of mix and match, and you can't really tell what belongs to which category at any point. If we start from the left side, reality, that's hopefully familiar to you, so we don't need to go into detail that much. But the next one, augmented reality, or AR, that's really big, or potentially really big at the moment. There hasn't been really any killer apps since Pokemon Go, but there's still the possibility since everyone has a smartphone. The idea of augmented reality is that you see the real world through a device, and you add some kind of digital information on top of that real world. It could be Pokemons, or it could be anything like virtual try-on applications for clothing. It could be indoor navigation for shopping malls, or having some extra services on an existing product if you want to scan it with your phone. But the idea here is that you have a mobile phone or some other device that you interact with, and you can basically see the virtual objects in the real space. Since we're in Finland and I'm kind of representing the Finnish community, I will be giving a couple of examples from Finnish companies. There's Fly AR on the left. In this one, they had this juice box that you can scan, and when scanning the juice box, you can actually see the factory where it's created and how that process works, so the user or the consumer can understand where the juice box is actually coming from. In the middle, we have Arilyn. They are working a lot with different events. This is from Von Herzen Brothers concert, where if you scan the ticket, you can actually get a mini version of the band playing there on the ticket. 3D Bear is a third example. They are really big in the education and training, one of the most successful companies worldwide in this area. The application shown there is for interior design, where you have an empty space, you scan it, and then you can add virtual furniture to that space, and then you could utilize that data that you collect from visitors to actually create the space later on. From augmented reality, if we go to the other end of the spectrum, we have virtual reality, or VR. And that's completely different. There we block the real world completely, usually with some kind of headset that you're wearing, but it could just as well be a cave system where you have big screens all around you. But the idea is that you're immersed in the experience and you can't see the real world anymore. Everything is virtual, and you can interact with virtual objects, virtual environment, and maybe other users that are present in the virtual space, using some kind of controllers usually. You have headsets there on top, Oculus Quest 2, the most popular headset at the moment. During last Christmas, they gained more than 2 million new users during the Christmas period, so it's growing really fast. Best examples of this is using virtual reality for some kind of training purposes, for example. You can visit spaces that are not available to you in the real world. You can reduce travel, since you don't have to go to one place, but everyone can join in virtually in the same virtual space. You can do interactions and activities that would be dangerous in the real world. You can, for example, visit an accident site and see how the doctor would operate there on the road, instead of having to do that in real life, which would suck probably. Another big use case for virtual reality has been different kind of virtual events. We've seen a lot of concerts held in virtual worlds during the last few years. A good example of those is Zone, which is a company from Helsinki. They created one of the first virtual reality concerts in May 2020. They had more than 1.4 million viewers during that one-day concert. And after that, they've been working with several international artists. There has been gigs by Travis Scott in Fortnite, which had more than 24 million users. So it's potentially really big during just one day event. A couple other examples. We have Tea Time Research. Their application here is for real estate. So you can actually visit an apartment building before it's built. You can see what it will look like in 3 years when it's ready. And not just see what it looks like, but you can interact with the environment. You can change the design, change where you place doors, what kind of tiling you have in the bathroom, and basically change anything, and then that can be actually built. The third option, or the third example here, is Virtual Dawn, another Finnish company working on education. So they are building this education platform where any university or any school can create learning content, and through their platform it will be shared for all other universities using the same system, so we can co-create a lot of new learning content in a short period of time. From virtual reality, the right end of the continuum, if we take a small step backwards, we have augmented virtuality. You can forget that right away. No one uses the term anywhere. It's basically a technicality. How it differs from virtual reality is that now we still have the virtual environment, but we bring some objects from the real world to that virtual world. It could be users' hands that are tracked with a camera. It could be a basketball that has some trackers, or it could be a fire extinguisher that has trackers. Something that the user can interact with in the real world, and that will be brought to the virtual as well and act as a controller there. So you can have the fire extinguisher, you can put out virtual fires with the real fire extinguisher. That increases the immersion quite a lot compared to using some kind of game controllers. But this is again similar to virtual reality. You have a headset, but you need some kind of tracking devices. Usually they are cameras on the headset, but they could be some external motion capture technology or anything like that that can track the environment or the objects that we want to bring to the virtual world. I think the easiest solution or example is the one in the picture, Meta Horizon Workrooms. They bring your keyboard to virtual reality. That's often been the problem. You have controllers in your hands, so how are you going to type something? One letter at a time, really slow. But if you use your own hands and bring the keyboard to virtual reality, that speeds up the process a lot. You can have virtual meetings with anyone around the globe and work just as efficiently. Then, as the last reality, we have mixed reality, or MR. And as a technology, this is really close to augmented reality. So the idea is, again, that we see the real world and we combine that with some kind of virtual elements. But the difference is that we don't have the mobile device in our hand anymore, but we have some kind of headset. It could be Microsoft HoloLens, or it could be Varjo's XR3 headset, a Finnish company making the best headsets in the world at the moment. But something that you can wear, so you don't need to use your hands for the interaction with a device. But here you use your hands for the interaction with the virtual objects in the real space. So I could have a headset, I could place, say, a miniature model of a building on the table there, and I could interact with it with my hands. Or if several people have the headsets, they can all interact with the same virtual objects, since they are all tracked in the space and locked on the table, for example. Or if we want, we could divide this room into two, have a green screen on that wall, and this side could become virtual environment, while this side is still the real world, and we can freely walk between the virtual and the real while seeing what's happening around us, seeing other people through the headset. Some examples of this, we have Geotrim working with different factory environments. So they have combined Microsoft HoloLens with a hard helmet, so you can go to the factory space, see the actual space, and combine that with the data from a BIM model. And you can see where the pipes are going to be or where the electricity lines are going while wearing the headset and interacting with your own hands. So you don't need any external controllers or tablets or computers for seeing that information. But it's all around the environment. Vario has worked with several companies building different kinds of simulators, where you have a physical simulator for training purposes like this one for helicopter pilots. You sit in the simulator, interact with the physical simulator, but everything around it is virtual. So while seeing your own hands, the controllers on the physical simulator, you see the virtual world and you can fly around it. They work with VRM Switzerland and got the first from the, what's it called, this European flight agency thing, that they can actually use simulator training instead of actual flying. And it's basically the same thing for training purposes. So that will be a lot more cost effective than actually flying with a real helicopter. Then as a last example, we have Anarchy Labs. They are one of the startup teams that were present at Helsinki XR Center last year. They created a drone control system for Microsoft HoloLens. So the problem is that if you're flying a drone, you have a controller in your hand which has all kinds of data. And you have to look down, you can't see where the drone is. But with their system, all of the data that is available on the controller is displayed in the sky next to the drone. So you don't need to look at the controller anymore. You can just look at the drone, and that kind of removes the need for an external spotter that's looking at the drone. You can have like map data in the sky, weather data, phasing of the drone, basically whatever you need. So that's all about the actual terminology. Last subject that I want to talk about is one that's been all the hype for at least last year, and that's Metaverse. If you ask about what's Metaverse, you probably get 100 different answers. But in my view, an easy explanation is that it's an open network of virtual spaces that people can connect to together. They can interact with each other, play, work in those virtual spaces, and move between the spaces without leaving the metaverse at any point. And an important part of that is that it's not just passively experiencing something, but it's actually creating stuff, expressing yourself through your avatar, through a virtual space that you can create, different kind of virtual assets that you want to create, and after that you can share with other people, you can monetize, you can sell it to other people. And all of this without any limitations on geographical distance or time or anything like that. An easy way to understand the metaverse is thinking of it as an onion. It's made by John Radoff, but the idea is that you start from the middle and then you move outwards, starting with the infrastructure, 5G, 6G networks, cloud computing, anything that's related to the infrastructure that allows us to connect to the network. Then we go one step out from that. We have the human interface or the devices that will be used. What will be the future of smartphones? Will they get smaller and more efficient, or are they going to be replaced by smart glasses completely? Or then we have wearable technology, smart clothing, all of the IoT sensors around us. And then moving from the devices to the next step, then we have artificial intelligence, blockchain technologies, NFTs, anything related to decentralization, so we are not limited to one central organization anymore. And after we have all of that technology in place, then we can think about the user. The spatial computing, we have 3D engines that allow us to display 3D graphics and animation. We have different XR technologies that allow the user to actually experience that. We have geospatial mapping, depending on where you are in the world, how you can connect the real world to the virtual, and what that actually brings together. If we are here, and this place is simultaneously in virtual reality and real space, what would that mean in terms of this conference? You could probably get real-time data from all of the users. You could check all of these information, maybe in 3D space. You could figure out what's happening yourself. If we had some demos from the different technologies, you could just maybe walk into that corner and experience those yourself if you had the devices available. And all of this then brings us to the creation part. We have the users using different kind of tools for creating assets, trading those assets, and figuring out how that economy works. And when they are creating something, then they also need to discover that content. What kind of ad networks there will be in the metaverse? How will the user-generated content be curated, for example? And of course, when they discover something, then they can actually experience it, whether it's gaming, shopping, anything else. And that's all done together with other people in the metaverse, and no longer sitting alone at your desk somewhere in the office or your home. Or actually, you will be in your home, but with other people. One thing that I'd like to highlight, we could have a session for 60 minutes on metaverse and probably not get to the root of it. But I think discovery will be important. It's a common discussion about inbound versus outbound discovery. I think you're familiar that like traditional outbound modes of discovery are not that efficient anymore. People are getting overloaded with notifications all the time and mostly just ignore them. In metaverse, things will work maybe a bit differently, since customers are no longer just consumers of content, but they will either create the content themselves or amplify the content created by someone else. Not just the companies offering the service, but other users. And this kind of community-driven content will mean some kind of cost-effective discovery possibilities. There's word of mouth, which will be really effective. And the content itself will become an asset, an object that can be traded with other people that has extrinsic and intrinsic values. And I think what's most important is, in my opinion, is that in metaverse we will be focusing on what people are doing instead of what they like or what they have done before. The doing together, experiencing something shared with other people will be the most important part, and will be when they will make those discoveries, when they are actually doing something with other people. And at that point, there will be no limitations on one platform to another, but they can freely move across the platforms, bring those virtual assets with them from one platform to another. So that's something that needs to be taken into account when creating something new. If you're offering a tool that allows people to create something, how does that work with the other platform that someone else is offering? But that's enough about metaverse. We can discuss that later on. I have a pile of cards there on the back table. Unfortunately, I have to leave after this talk to another presentation on the other side of Helsinki. But please get my card and be in touch. We can discuss more, or you can come visit our offices if you want to. Some takeaways for you. Extended reality, it's not just a fad. It's growing, and it will stay there. The technology will evolve, but the idea of experiencing something with a headset, connecting real world and virtual world, that will stay. A lot of large companies are launching their services, whether it's augmented reality or virtual reality or mixed reality. They are doing that now. If you want to be one of the first ones, you should already be doing something. AR is in everyone's pocket. The user base is huge. So there's a lot of potential. But there might be a reason why we haven't seen too many successful applications after Pokemon. Virtual reality, that's still a bit niche. The end user base is not that large yet. I saw some data from the Great Britain that 5% of people are using virtual reality monthly. But it's growing all the time. And when devices get cheaper, smaller, easier to use, it will be more popular. And with B2B, it's there already. A lot of companies are using it for training purposes, for product presentation, anything. And with these technologies, you have to always take into account that the technology improves all the time. You can't just look at it now and that's it for next 5 years. It will evolve next year and the year after that and the year after that. And all of the services that you're creating, they need to evolve as well and as quickly. So you can't be stuck in a development loop for 3 years, because that will be old news when it comes out. But you need to be agile and quick and take advantage of what's available at any point. Thanks. That's all that I have at this point. Please visit our website, helsinkixrcenter.com, for more information, or contact me by email if you want to discuss something else. And I think if we have a minute or two for some questions, I'm happy to answer.
This is Burak from Sahibinden, Turkey. We run a horizontal online classifieds. So do you know of any kind of a virtual reality solution? You showed us one for a new property developments, a virtual reality that you can do, but in general that can be used by realtors to have more content for the home buyers.
Yeah, I think at least in Finland, using 360-degree material is quite common. So you can easily go there, take some images or video and put that on a website, and people can access that at this point, even though they don't have any proper devices for that. But you could just as well have that same content on virtual reality headsets or on a mobile phones, and you could produce a 3D model out of it, so you could actually walk around the environment instead of staying in a static location. That's pretty easily done. That's a cheap solution. You have like one-time investment of, say, 5,000 euros, and then you can do that as many times as you like.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, yes.
Hi, this is Natasha from talent.com. I was just going to ask you, how fast do you, with your expertise, see the metaverse really becoming active in business? Because so far it's more of a playground, as far as I understand, and I have very little understanding of it. So how fast do you see that becoming part of our lives?
That's a good question. I don't have a straight answer. Currently, it's pretty fragmented. There are different players doing different things, but they are not yet connected together. So I think that kind of common metaverse, so if we have, say, one metaverse where everyone is connected, that will take time. I'd say at least 10 years.
10 years.
But for a smaller solutions combining some aspects of that, that will be faster. We already have some solutions that can do that. So those smaller, I guess currently they are kind of gaming related or well, there's some things like tourism or some other companies like Nike has just built their own metaverse on Roblox platform. So larger brands are taking advantage of it, but it's still connected to just a single platform instead of connecting them all together. So I think that will take some time, since it's not easy to get people like Meta and Google collaborate. So we'll see how that goes.
Would your answer have been different yesterday? Exactly.
Not necessarily. I think, yeah, I think in my opinion, like the field changes so quickly that until we see some kind of open opportunities for anyone to create something, then the common metaverse isn't happening. But I think that's why Europe is a good place to be. We are not limited to the laws in the United States regarding data protection. We don't have the control in China, but we can build something in Europe that would be open for everyone. And that's something that we try to do with XR4Europe. Please look that up. It's open for anyone to join if you're interested in these technologies. So building something that kind of fits with the European way of looking at things, that allows us to build an open metaverse that anyone could join without being too limited.
Will your answer be different tomorrow?
Most likely.
So is it basically a user experience problem? Why is the application not possible?
I think that's a good question. I think currently with virtual reality headsets, they are kind of competing with gaming consoles or high-end PCs and laptops. And currently the content that they offer is fairly limited. So we need a bigger width of content for the end users to choose that platform instead of buying a PlayStation. Or since they need a PC for accessing internet, they will most likely will get a laptop instead of a VR headset. But once that's possible through a VR headset with the similar user experience, then I think we will see more end users taking advantage of the technologies. It's now possible, but now, for example, with the typing, you need to use the controller, so it's really slow and not effective at all. So once that thing is solved, then we probably see a better uptake.
All right, great. Thank you, Santeri.
Thank you.